Well, hello. My name, as you can see, is Mr. Murphy. I'm going to just take this time to introduce myself a little bit and talk about my courses and what you and your child can expect here over the course of the year. So first off, I teach both pre-calculus and Algebra 2. This is actually my first year teaching pre-calculus. In the years past, I've also taught FST, but that curriculum has gone away and we've replaced it with a new one. And so as a result, that course is no longer available. And so now I'm also, in addition, like I said, to Algebra 2, I'm teaching pre-calculus. So some of you students I've actually had in the past, and I'm excited to be able to have you again this year. And something else that's new is I'm also the head of the math department. So that's a little bit as far as what's going on with me this year. And this is my family. We didn't get a chance to go to Wisconsin Dells last year. This was our first trip as a family out to Wisconsin Dells. I'm born and raised in Minnesota, so I grew up going to Wisconsin Dells probably about every other year growing up as a child. So it was fun to go back and bring my family there. This is my wife and I. We'd been there, I think, once many years ago, but my kids had never been there before. So we got a chance to get out there and go to the ducks and go to the different water parks, and we had an absolute blast. So this was us there along the river this summer. But that's my wife Katie there in the far left, and then Abigail is in the red T-shirt there in the middle, and she just turned 15. And Eliana is in the sweatshirt there, and she's 13. And then going back to the left, my daughter there that's in the front left in the pink, that's Lydia, and she is 10. And our youngest daughter, Briella, is 8. So that's my family. And yes, I do have all daughters, and I'm very lucky to have them all. All right, so a little bit more about me. This is my 24th year of teaching. It's also my 12th year of teaching at Edina High School. Doesn't feel like it's been that long, but man, time does go by quickly. I have my master's degree in curriculum and instruction, and I have a specialist degree in technology and education. Here's what students need for this pre-calculus class. You want to make sure you have a notebook for taking notes, for doing your assignments. For a lot of the assignments, you will have a packet, but sometimes if that packet, if there's not enough space in there, you'll want to have a notebook, obviously, to be able to do your work on a separate sheet of paper. You'll also want to have a calculator. The calculator you're going to want is just a scientific calculator. Now, I know in years past you've used graphing calculators, but starting this year, so in pre-calculus, a lot of what we do, you don't need a calculator for, or you don't need a graphing calculator for. So the only calculator that you'll need for the year is a scientific calculator. If there's ever any times where you would need a graphing calculator for the purpose of maybe learning things about a particular graph and studying and understanding a graph, we'll be able to use technology as far as like laptops and devices and that sort of thing. But as far as testing and everything else, you will only be using, at most, a scientific calculator all year. Some optional, I will have my notes available online for students to print out, so then that way you can use that to follow along when we're in class. I will not be providing those to students, though. You have to be responsible for yourself, and by this time you've probably had a lot of classes where you've had those notes available to you and you can understand the value in those. And so again, you can print those out from my website on Schoology, but that's available to everybody. You might want to have a 3-ring binder as well, just in that way you can stay organized with all those notes that you might print out, the assignment packets, everything else, so you can have it all in one spot. Our grading scale. So the grading scale, it's a standard grading scale, nothing curved or changed here. So you got your 90% your lowest A, 80s the lowest B, 70s the lowest C, and so on. The retake policy is that if you ever get less than a 75% on a summative assessment, so that would be like the test, not any quizzes in between, but on a test, if you get less than a 75%, you can retake it for up to a 75%. So if you got an 80%, and normally you get A's in math, you can't retake it for an A. But if you get a 50% and you just really had a bad day on that particular test or didn't do some of the assignments, well, you'll have that opportunity to retake it for up to a 75%. But there's some details you need to be aware of before that can take place. First off, that retake needs to take place before the next test happens. Okay, so at the end of the semester, you can't go back and try to retake any tests from the beginning of the year. And students must meet with me during office hours or before after school to go over their mistakes and check for understanding before scheduling a retake. So I want to make sure that, because maybe you just forgot to do some assignments, so I want to make sure that you've done the work, that you've done what you've needed to prepare for that retake, rather than just saying, okay, you're just ready to retake it, here you go. Because when I have done that in the past, it doesn't go well. because oftentimes students don't know what to focus on, and so this way, for us to be able to sit down one-on-one, be able to identify maybe the mistakes that were made, what the issue was, figure out what that is, address that issue, will prepare students a lot better for their retake. But hopefully that's not something that we have to deal with anyhow. Well, to conclude here, so the best way to contact me is via email. If you try to contact me via phone, oftentimes I'm going to be busy with class, or sometimes I'm not even in my room because there'll be a different teacher using my room a couple periods of the day as well. So the best way to contact me is by email. So you can see that there. My office hours. So my office hours are going to be in this room before school and after school. So in the mornings, I'm available from 7:30 to 8:15. Okay, now being that I'm head of the math department, there are a lot of extra meetings and obligations that I have. So that's why I kind of have these kind of, it's not like every other day or anything like that. So I kind of have some strange scheduling here. But Mondays and Fridays, I'm available before school from 7:30 to 8:15. And afternoons, I'm available after school on Mondays from 3:20 all the way till 4:20. So an hour after school. Or on Thursday, I'm available for a half hour from 3:20 to 3:50 because of other obligations I have to get home for. So those are my office hours. I do oftentimes will have other days that I might be available. So if it doesn't work with those times, if a student does want to still meet with me, I just ask that they email me ahead of time, and I'll check to see if I'm available that day before school or after school that they would like to meet, and I do my best to make that work if I can. So anyhow, that's a little bit about myself, and I'm excited for the year, and I'm excited to meet both you and your students here in the future.